Welcome into the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a win, which is nice after what happened a couple days ago. The Avs, this is their second blowout win of the season. Can't say too much about it. It was really good. That's basically where we're at. So before we get into too much talk, boys, do you have your victory shots ready?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
All right, let's go.
Go Avs go.
Yes. All right.
Ooh, that tasted like victory and Smirnoff.
Victory and Smirnoff, a good combo every game from now on. But 7-3 win, the second blowout win of the season. Like I said, this one, what the Avs showed me is what they have better than anyone else in the league. I'm gonna make a fighting comparison. They have that knockout punch. The Avalanche scored 5 goals in a 10-minute stretch. Take that out, technically we lost the rest of the game. But it doesn't matter because the Avs have this insane ability to just turn it on for whatever stretch it is. You know, we saw it last year against Nashville. This game, 5 goals in a 10-minute stretch at the end of the first and the beginning of the second, where it doesn't matter what happened the rest of the game because we beat you right then and there. And that is something that I think the Avalanche do better than any other team in the league.
Yeah, I love that they're one of the only teams in the league that can do that, honestly, with that amount of firepower. And the second line, wow. Honestly, the whole bottom 9, everybody just played their game. It was great.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that for sure because I was impressed, top to bottom throughout the lineup. This was one of the more complete games I've seen the Avs play in a while. Maybe the most complete game that I've seen them play this season, just top to bottom. Only one player ended up a minus, and that was Byram. And he was, he's still going to be a rookie. I don't think this was necessarily his best game out there, but he was still showing some flashes. But, yeah, Zach, like you said, I think the bottom 9, this was the game that we were waiting for from them, to be honest.
Yeah, did Brandon Saad listen to our last podcast?
I think he might have. I don't know if Krim is in the chat, but I was talking to him earlier, and it's like Brandon Saad is not necessarily a guy that's going to – sorry, I have a frog in my throat there. But he's not necessarily a guy that's going to be able to wheel the puck, coast to coast and make these highlight reel goals. Sometimes he'll be able to, come into the zone and make a nice play by himself. But I like the comparison between him and the old oh my God, why am I blanking on his name right now? Ryan Smith.
Oh, there you go.
Ryan Smith. Just because he's one of those guys that grinds out for his points. You'll find him parked out in the front of the net, more often than not. And that's what I love about him. I think that's kind of an element the Avs have been missing a little bit. And it's kind of nice to see him, have a bit of a bounce back game after, pretty much all of Avs Nation has been roasting him a little bit. So
right. And he scored 2 garbage goals off rebounds, right? This game.
Yeah.
One
not
was
technically
really nice
a rebound on the Makar one, but it was a little shimmy in front. Basically, it's the Brandon Saad style garbage, clean it up goal.
Got you.
Yeah, and the second one was a really beautiful Berkey pass.
Yeah.
But still, he's parked out front. And if we can get that kind of, Ryan Smith type of play and ability to pick up points right in front, parked in front of the net, then God dang, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I was thrilled with how he played today. Like you guys were talking about, he's got 3 goals on the year now. I think they were a combined 3 feet from the crease. So that's the style he plays. Even if it's good passing, it's being right in front, getting where he needs to be to score goals. And that's why I compared him almost a little bit. Landeskog has a little bit of that. Not quite to the extent that Saad does. That's really Saad's game. But Landeskog does a little bit of that on the top line. And when you're doing it at all 4 levels like we were tonight, every single line had a goal scorer. A little bit of an asterisk there. Nichushkin scored on the power play, so I'm going to give the third line credit. But what it really means is we got secondary scoring, which we've been looking for a little bit.
Yeah. Zach, if you remember our youth days, it's like you remember who my favorite player was, Ryan Smith. And and for just good cause. It's like, dude, he's willing to put his butt straight in the front of the net and and just grind out for some of those points. And when I was not good at all at hockey, that's what I tried to do to pick up some of my points. So it's kind of exciting to see a bit of a player that emulates Ryan Smith's game a little bit. And we saw it finally from Saad tonight. And not only that, I thought he was pretty comfortable with the puck, controlling it when he needed to and making smart passes. We have not seen that from Saad so far. This was definitely a bounce back game from, him and Kadri honestly looked pretty freaking good too.
I was just going to mention Kadri because he might not have put up the 2 goals that Saad did, but this was, I thought, his best game of the season. He was making good passes. He looked like he had more confidence on the ice. He was getting it done in the offensive zone in a way that he hasn't so far. That second Saad goal that we talked about, that was all 3. That was a Saad banged at home, but that was Kadri, that was Burakovsky, and that was Saad. So I was really happy with the way the entire second line played today, and it increases our ceiling so much more. I made the comparison a couple pods ago. The difference between the 2018 Avalanche and the 2019 Avalanche is that second line. Because when the second line is firing and we have a second set of guys that can put the puck in the net for us and that can really dominate the game, it makes us just that much better. And that's why tonight we scored 7 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really just adds another dynamic to the Avs. It's unbelievable when our bottom 9 really is playing to their capability. It's unreal what this team is easily a Stanley Cup contender. Duh.
Yeah, I mean, and there's really no reason that the second line should not be one of the more dynamic second lines in the entire league. If you just look at the players on it, look at their skill capabilities, it's like, dude, you have Kadri when he's playing at his best, he is easily, a top 7 to 5 second line center in the entire NHL. And then Burakovsky, we already know about him. And then Saad, he has the career resume, winning Stanley Cups, scoring big goals and putting up points. There's no reason that the second line should not be producing. I do think that there could be a bit of an adjustment period for these 3. Coming in, Saad's kind of a big piece to insert straight into that second line. But I do think it's coming. And this was the first game truly where I thought the second line dominated. They were by far my most, I was more impressed by the second line tonight than I was the first line.
Which is saying a lot because the first line was good as well. Go ahead, Zach.
The flashes that they had tonight were just really unbelievable, and just now I can't remember what I was going to say. We got caught up there, Billy.
Sorry about that. I was just going to mention that is impressive because the first line was also very good tonight. They put up some points on their own. Cale Makar looked good with them, but it was from top to bottom. This was a legitimate team win. It's really difficult to find a guy that had a truly bad game.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. Just based on the fantastic play from the bottom 9, that really takes away the fear of having to break up that 3-headed monster up there, which is huge for the Avalanche moving forward. If the bottom 6 can just keep that momentum going and their chemistry together, that is another key for the Avalanche moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, Zach. That's a great point.
Absolutely. We want to keep that line together if we can, because the 3-headed monster is, at least in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, the best line in hockey. And the longer, if we can get secondary scoring from our second line while keeping them together, that's what makes the Avalanche better than a lot of the rest of the teams in the league. So we're going to keep typing up the Avalanche, but before we do, if you're still in that live chat, go ahead, drop a like for us, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you're watching this somewhere else, check us out on YouTube next time. But I want to bring up another guy, Marshall even texted me about him, who had a really good game, and I think a couple of really good games in a row now, and that's Tyson Jost, who he really flashed tonight. He had a really nice assist. He has been really good all year long on the penalty kill. Is he finding his groove? Is he kind of coming into his role here?
Oh my God! If he is, then this team is unstoppable, man. The way that he looked tonight. Okay, so I know we Billy, you originally said it's like I didn't necessarily see any players that stood out to me that weren't great tonight. And I think JT Confer was one of those
That's
guys. I
fair.
don't think he had a great game, but um, if Jost keeps playing like this, like he did tonight, and JT Confer plays like he has the entire season, then Jost earns that spot on the freaking third line.
I agree with that.
Jost to me, dude, he showed that explosiveness that we've seen from him in juniors and in college. Drawing that penalty in the first period where he blew by the defender, just absolutely blew by him, and made a nice cut to the center of the ice, and had a really high quality scoring chance. I thought he was all over the place. Defensive side of the game as well. Dude, I mean, these last couple of flurries, even in the third period, I think he might have been our best player in the third period there. He had that high quality scoring chance and then made that pass right under the slot where, dude, I was very impressed by Jost all night.
He elevated his game to what we've been hoping to see out of him forever now, and he looked really good. And like you said, I agree completely. If JT Compher doesn't pick it up and Tyson Jost plays like that, he's taking that job. But that's Compher's job right now. But it's getting closer and closer because Tyson Jost has that upside. Tonight he was flying through the neutral zone. He was basically, when he had the puck on his stick, it was getting into the offensive zone every time. We didn't have to worry about it there. He wasn't turning the puck over. He was making plays with it, and he looked like the player the Avs picked at 10th overall. Not necessarily a superstar, but a guy that is a very, very solid NHL player, and we think can have a significant role on this team.
And we all want Jost to do fantastic, and the fact that he's on a prove it kind of deal this year makes it that much better. And if he takes that spot from JT Compher, I don't think ultimately he's going to be that guy there, but if he could do that, wow, that'd be amazing. Yeah. And still overall, I think he's still the odd man out. I don't know, I'm still going to say that, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, Billy, even going back to a couple podcasts ago when we were kind of discussing who would you rather have in the lineup, Jost or a Bowers or a Belmar or something like that. If he plays like this tonight, I don't care where he slots into the lineup. It's and Zach and I were discussing it. Like you just brought up, Zach. It's if Jost plays like this, dude. Well, we've been pretty harsh on Jost. We have, and for pretty good reason, to be honest. It's
True.
He's a 10th overall pick, 2016. We expected a lot of high-level play out of Jost. Especially coming out of his juniors performance in the BCHL and then, playing some high-level hockey at North Dakota. We expected him to be, truly that second-line center that we desperately needed behind McKinnon. To this point, I don't see that there's a path for him to become that second-line center.
We're a little past that, but that's okay.
Yeah. But I do, after tonight's game, it's if he can play with that type of confidence and, just that ability that he has naturally, not get into his head too much, I don't see a reason the Avs need to move on from him, to be honest, unless he's expecting a ton of money, from another team.
Yeah, I mean, especially he's still an RFA right now, so we've got him controlled for a few more years here. The contract he's on right now is probably, apart from McKinnon, might be the most valuable deal on the team just because it's so cheap. I guess take away the ELC guys as well, but he's not making much money at all, and he's playing a significant role on the pro team. So I really like the contract he's on right now, and that's one of the biggest things that he brings to the table outside of his game right now, just because he gives us a lot more flexibility because you can throw him wherever you want. You can put him anywhere in the lineup, and you know that it's going to be just a little bit less against the cap than any other player you would have there.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right, so I do have one question for you. This is something that didn't concern me much, but I do think there might be a couple people out there who are going to consider it. The Avs didn't look great in the last 10 minutes of the game. I personally don't
No.
care. I think that game was over. I think the Avs knew it was over. I think they were just playing, let's not get hurt. And the Sharks were playing harder, mostly to hurt the Avs, but also they put a couple goals in the net. I'm not concerned about it. Like I said, I think the Avs were just playing not to get hurt. Do either of you two have any thoughts on that? Are you concerned, or are you just kind of shrugging it off?
No, that's a total shrug off for me. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about that at all. The boy, yeah, they're comfortably in the lead, and they have that one in the bag. It's not really. Maybe later on in the season, you should get worried about that. They're letting off the gas pedal, but not right now.
Yeah, no, not in a game like this. Especially that, the last couple of seasons we have seen these injury tendencies from the Avalanche. And we saw at the start of the third period when we had like 48 seconds or whatever it was left on the power play. Bednar sent out the second unit. If we were truly trying to win that game, I don't think that the Sharks get those 2 goals, or not win the game, but
But step
well,
on
actually,
throats,
yeah, win the game. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I am not concerned about that at all. The only thing that I was a little bit disappointed with is that McKinnon couldn't pick up more points, and even McCarr, who is leading the NHL in defensive points this season. So
Without scoring a goal, but it's coming. It is coming. He's got the 8 assists. It's funny. It's a little bit weighted because he's got 2 games of 3 assists and then 2 other assists mixed in there. I think that
yeah,
levels out at some point, but he's producing at over a point per game pace right now, and he's been about as close as you can be without scoring a goal. Do you
oh
think
dude,
Yeah.
do you think he's able to produce at a point per game pace this season? I don't know. That's a
uh,
lot, but if anyone can do it, it's Kale McCarr. What do you guys think? Do you think that's in the cards?
Yeah, I
I
would I would make that bet on FanDuel right now if that was a thing.
Oh.
Like,
I
like he would even have more points. He's got robbed of at least 2 goals by hitting post this season again. He's having that trouble. I don't know how. He's just a post magnet, but he should
yeah,
have more points again.
we saw that last season too. Even McKinnon was on an interview recently, and he's like, yeah, McCarr hit like 1,700 posts last season, and at some point that's got to even out a little bit. Maybe he played a little bit too much posts when at drop-in sessions or whatever, but I'm not concerned about that. His assists are also coming from his like shots from the point, so some of those assists that he's being granted are going to be goals. So
Yeah, and this is he's got 8 points in 7 games, and that's in a stretch that we don't necessarily think we've seen the best out of Kale McCarr yet. In the 2 games where he had 3 assists each, we do, but in the
yeah,
other 5 games, we haven't really seen his best hockey yet, and that's coming. So I think that there's a very good chance that we are looking at a special season from Kale McCarr, especially if the Avalanche kind of build off this, because that's the next thing I want to talk about. They blew out St. Louis, and then they came out and played a mass series against the Kings, and then a mass series against the Ducks. Now we blew out San Jose. We get San Jose game again, and then we have 4 straight against the Wild, which will be interesting, but we'll talk about that later.
yeah,
How do they need to come out and play against San Jose? Because I think it needs to, at the very least, it needs to be a win. You've got to get that sweep. You've got to sweep something, and the Sharks are not a team that you
yes,
want hanging around. So at the very least, it needs to be a win. But more than that, I think it needs to be the Avalanche playing their best hockey again. Maybe not 8-0, 7-3 blowout hockey, but the way we saw them play against the Ducks, even in the loss because of John Gibson, that kind of hockey again. Because at that point, you'd have played 3 good hockey games in a row. 2 of them, assuming we beat the Sharks, would be wins. And that would be really, really big for building the confidence and building the momentum for the Avalanche moving into that 4-game stretch against the Wild, which I do think is going to be a little bit tougher.
yeah.
Yeah, like we said on the last pod, the Avs need to sweep this series, and it doesn't. They don't have to pump them again, obviously, but it will be good for the confidence going into this Wild series. Is going to be tough.
I mean, yeah, this is something I've been hammering, the last few podcasts, is that the Avs need to figure out ways to win these series because, that's been a bit of a trend in the NHL so far this season. One team wins one game, and right away it's like the other team wins the next. And that could be something that we see from, throughout the league, moving through the season. And if we can come out and win this series against the Sharks, that'll bring us a lot of confidence moving into the Wild series, especially that we have 4 games in a row against them.
Exactly. And like Zach said, it doesn't have to be a blowout. It just has to be a win, and it has to be good Avalanche hockey, which I honestly, I don't know that I would say we've seen that combination of both of those 2 games in a row this season. So,
No, we haven't.
we had the 2 wins in a row with the blowout on the Blues and the win against the Kings that I don't necessarily think was the best game the Avs have played. And we just played 2 good games in a row with the one against the Ducks and the one tonight, but we didn't win against the Ducks. So I want to see them do both 2 games in a row, and that will really be the sign to me that the Avalanche have turned that corner, and not only are we a talented team, but we're a good team again this year, because we haven't quite proven it yet.
No. And so these things will even out in the end. The Avalanche are scoring at a pretty record low shooting percentage at this point. And that's something that we can expect to, increase, especially with McKinnon only having 1 goal, Makar not having any goals. And that's kind of why we were kind of pushing that narrative of do not push the panic button yet. But, to an extent, it's if we can't end up like winning some of these series, in a row, like if we can win 2 or 3 series in a row, then they're right back on track. But it's going to be hard this season. And I think that starts with the Sharks' next game. And I think this is a very important game to win for just the team's confidence.
Yeah, Marshall, you mentioned around the league, this isn't just an Avs thing. Series are being split. It's one team one night, it's the next team the next night. So what the Avs need to do to be an elite team is really differentiate themselves by winning and going on winning streaks, winning some games in a row. I think this is a good start. They just played 2 good hockey games in a row. Now go get another win, and I really like where the Avs could be headed if everything goes well for them. One more guy that I want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet on this pod, but have mentioned a couple times this season, Devon Toews with another goal tonight. 3 goals in an Avs uniform. He was a guy that, you kind of thought coming from the Islanders to the Avalanche, just based on the system change, was probably going to have more points than you're used to out of his, more than he typically scores. But he's really impressed me so far. Another one today, the goal, not necessarily all him. He did get to shoot at an empty net, but great play by Landeskog to get him that. But he's finishing, and he's finishing from the back end. He's providing offense from the back end, and he's one of the Avs' better lockdown defensive side of the puck defensemen. So Devon Toews has been an incredible addition to this team. Even getting into it with Evander Kane at the end, shoving some guys around in front of the net.
Yeah.
Devon Toews brings a lot to the table, and I think we talked about it in the offseason when we did our pods. This is a guy that's going to get maybe overlooked a little bit by Avs fans. He's not as big a name, and Bowen Byram's coming in this year. We expected, Cale Makar and Sam Girard are both young players that could take a step. But the other man, Devon Toews, has been just as good as any of those guys so far this year.
Yeah, we really have a rotating number 1 line of defense. It's awesome. Devontae, and what I've really been impressed about with Toews is because it's always what gets overshadows is the defensive end, and he's just always in the right position in front of the net. You very, very rarely see a pass get through his stick. His stick is always in the right position. He's just really good in the defensive end, and that's really important for the Avs with kind of the lack of big guys, if you will.
Yeah, he is one of the bigger guys, and I like the. Actually, go ahead, Marshall.
I was just gonna say my main takeaway from that Devon Toews goal is that Dubnyk actually flipped a bitch after over nothing, and I thought that was so great.
Yeah, he didn't even get touched. I think he was just trying to maybe he didn't know if there was someone behind him, and he thought maybe I could do something to try and get a call, but it was pretty clearly there was nothing there.
Dude, he was the one that dove after the puck and wrapped Rantanen up, and then he's like, "Oh my goodness, what the heck, ref? Like, where's the call there?" It's like, dude, Dubnik, you're bad now. You're washed.
Yeah.
And so there was no call on that. Sorry, man, but Devontae scored an absolutely like the easiest goal he might ever score in the NHL. Like any Avs fan that was watching that game knew that Taves was going to put that in the net.
I like the wind up too. He had so much time that he actually wound up for the slap shot. But just a message to Devin Dubnyk, if you don't want to get scored on, maybe don't dive 4 feet out of your net and miss. Because if you don't get that puck, it's ended up in the back of the net. But
I just thought that was so freaking funny to me, man. It's like Dubnyk's throwing his arms in the air. It's like, ref, where's the call? Oh, wait, maybe I was the one that was causing this interference because Rantanen was 3 feet from your freaking crease.
Yeah.
So,
it's not where's the call, it's where were you? Because it wasn't where you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But Zach brought up that Devon Taves brings a little bit of a bigger body to the Avalanche, which a lot of the guys don't have. But one guy who we got back tonight, Eric Johnson, came back and played very, very well. Another guy, we're 5 deep on defense now of guys that we just really like. And Ryan Graves brought some physicality tonight too. Maybe not a perfect game, but he played well as well. But Eric Johnson came back, immediately get some points. He didn't end up getting the goal. Belmar tipped it, but the first point he came back, got to his first point of the year on the first Avs goal of the game. So I really liked what I saw from EJ. He looks like he's perfectly fine to come back and play the role that we expected him to play, and that's all we really need out of him.
Yeah, no, his minutes were definitely pretty limited tonight. I think they're still trying to work him a little bit into the lineup. I think at this point, the top 5, like you said, Billy, is pretty set in stone, like we knew at the beginning of the season, especially with Pattern being put on waivers. He'll probably end up being added to the taxi squad, which is good. I do like Pattern on the taxi squad if no one actually ends up claiming him. But at the end of the day, I think that last 6 defenseman spot is going to be, kind of a rotating bit of, Byram and Timmins and maybe Gravy. But at this point, I feel like it might be a little bit hard for Timmins to get some ice time. It's not necessarily a knock on him, but just a testament to how the rest of the D has been playing.
He's got to he has to push Gravy out of the lineup because right now I don't think we're taking Bo and Byram out. Maybe we get some kind of rotation where if we're playing a bad team, almost like you do with a backup goalie, when we're playing a bad team, we're like, you know what, Bo and Byram, take the night off. We'll give it to Timmins tonight. But I think it's more likely that we see Gravy and Timmins back and forth a little bit, but it's going to be Timmins is going to really have to work his ass off to take that spot from Ryan Graves, and Ryan Graves is going to have to work his ass off to keep it, which, competition definitely breeds good play. So, Marshall, you mentioned Pattern. He did clear waivers, so that is all set. I think that is also one of the bigger reasons that trade was made, not only because we wanted to free up some space, but Ian Cole wouldn't have cleared waivers. Ian Cole on the taxi squad wasn't an option. If he went through waivers, he was getting claimed. Pattern gets through waivers, which means we can put him on the taxi squad, and we can go ahead and call him back up if we need to. If we start having injury issues and our insane depth falls off, that's just another man that is in that huge group of guys that we think are capable NHL defensemen.
Yeah, can't agree more.
Yeah. Really quick, another defenseman that I'd like to touch on throughout this entire season so far, he's been really impressive to me, is Sammy G, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially in his own zone and being able to break the puck out. This is a guy that's like, he throughout this regular season so far, I don't think he's necessarily turned too many heads, but we're also not really talking about him, which is great for a second pairing defenseman. It's like Zach and I were talking about it. It's like, how does a guy of his stature play so well in the D zone?
Exactly.
It's due to his positioning, it's due to his positioning, his hockey IQ, and really his stick work. His skating is very terrific as well. But, how tall is he? Like
5'10",
5'10"?
and that's
Yeah,
on
on a
skates.
good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's just so impressive. Just another one of those pieces that you know, Sakic absolutely fleeced in that Duchesne trade. That's going to be a real big piece of the Avs moving forward. And he's still what, only 23 years old?
Yeah, we
It's
always,
like,
he passed Carlos Caressens for the most consecutive regular season games by a defenseman. He's now second all time in Avs history at 23 years old, which is insane.
yeah,
And there's it's hard to say enough about Sam Girard because he's such an incredibly skilled player, and I think he's one of the most underrated players around the league. I have a lot of friends who watch other
oh yeah,
teams, don't necessarily watch the Avalanche all the time, and there's this perception outside of the Avalanche organization that Sam Girard is just this offensive defenseman. Like, he was kind of what Tyson Barrie was, and
no,
that's not his game. Yes, he is an incredible skater, and yes, he does some great things in the offensive zone. The heart and soul of Sam Girard's game is that he is defensively sound, and arguably between him, Taves, and EJ, one of the most defensively sound defenders on the Avalanche. He is a lockdown guy,
easily.
and it's just a benefit that he is also very skilled in the offensive zone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was about to say, and what another great move by Sakic getting this guy signed up long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
yeah,
Like, Sakic knows what he's looking at when he picks a guy out. Like, what an amazing move.
yeah. At the end of that contract, Zach, it's going to look like a freaking steal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to
It
this
already
point,
does,
it
really.
already does look like a steal. And that's, I think the boys on the Avalanche roster, they kind of know what their goal is to consistently win, and be Stanley Cup contenders for a long time. And they're going to make their money. McKinnon obviously should be making more than he is right now, but I do expect, you know, McKinnon to take at least a little bit of a team friendly
Yeah, he
deal
might take
when his
12
next
million
contract is
instead of
up.
14, but I think he'll take something.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's fair, man. Like, I think the boys like playing together a lot. I think there's a lot of locker room chemistry with amongst this core that we have right now, and that's pretty exciting to see. Sammy G, that contract is freaking awesome because we have him locked down. Don't necessarily even need to worry about his contract, whether he's overpaid or underpaid or whatever, because you know what he's going to bring every single night. And like you said, Billy, he's one of the more underrated defensemen in the entire league, and I think that's going to continue to happen, especially being in the shadows of Byram and
Yeah,
McCarr.
it's a stacked
But
core right now.
for the Avs side of things, it's like we don't really care because we have Sammy G on our
We know what
side.
he brings to the table. I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah,
We know that he is a very, very good defenseman. And I just like, Marshall, I like that you brought up the Avalanche's locker room chemistry because every time a new player comes to the Avalanche, whether it was Devon Taves, whether it was Brandon Saad, whether it was Patterin, they do an interview. And the first thing they say is, I'm just so impressed at the bonds in this locker room and how much of a group they are. And it's just a theme. Every single guy that comes here says the same thing. So it's incredibly impressive, like what Joe Sakic has built, not only on the ice, but in the locker room with guys that just love each other, love playing together, and play well together.
yeah. I don't necessarily mean to pump another podcast here, but Nathan McKinnon was on Spin Chicklets, probably the biggest hockey podcast
Mhm.
out there last week, and that's exactly what he was saying. Like I just brought up, some of those team friendly deals. Ryan Whitney was kind of giving him hell because of his 6 point whatever million he's making per year. But then he's like, dude, I really don't care because like if we can have a competitive team, I'm going to always have like a team friendly deal. And he also went into talking about Kadri and the importance that he brings, and just some of these younger players and how they mesh with each other. So that's super exciting to hear from the biggest star in the Colorado Avalanche locker room
Yeah,
right now.
it's just whoever you are in the Avs, everyone brings something to the table. Everyone likes to play their role. Everyone cares more about team success than individual success. And speaking as someone who's played on a lot of different teams with a lot of different attitudes, there's nothing as fun as playing on a team where you legitimately get just as excited to see your buddy score as you do when you score by yourself.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for the camaraderie and just how fun it is to play for a good team with
Yeah.
legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations. They have to be excited, and I don't blame them because they are one of the best teams in hockey right now, easily one of the most talented, and we just get to keep on watching them get better and better.
Yeah, when you're as close as the boys are and you're as talented as well, it just makes these guys, even the role players, just want to lay it on the line every single night for each other,
Yeah.
which is, it's a recipe to win. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. I like that you bring up the role players aspect because um, something that we haven't really touched on yet is that Calvert was out of the lineup, and we did see,
Kiefer
you
Sherwood
know,
came in, yeah.
Kiefer Sherwood. I forgot his name for a second because he played so minimal minutes for the boys. But they're saying it's day to day at this point. But Calvert, in my eyes, is the kind of epitome of that role player. Embodies what the boys want to do, and I guarantee you, I'm not in that Avalanche locker room, but I guarantee you, the boys love to see Calvert
Yeah.
around.
And I love to see
Yeah.
Calvert around because he's a great player.
Yeah, yeah, I love Calvi, dude. But so hopefully we don't see too much more of Kiefer Sherwood. And even if that does come, like some boys start getting injured, hopefully we still don't see Kiefer Sherwood because I would love to see Count get back in the lineup and Shane
Yeah.
Bowers is still right there.
One
as
thing to
well.
watch if we are trying to monitor this Calvert injury day to day, as we all know, in the Avalanche organization is essentially meaningless. Um, we do know Francouz might be out a little while, but on Calvert in particular,
Yeah, Zach, you're
the
saying
first
that.
sign we might get, see if the Avalanche move Logan O'Connor back up to the taxi squad from the AHL. If they do make that move, then I
Yeah.
expect Calvert out at least a week because I think that means they want to try and put LOC in some games in that role. And that is, we've talked about it before. I think of all the fourth line guys, I think Logan O'Connor filling in for Matt Calvert is my favorite 1-to-1 backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that one.
I don't have anything to that.
On that goaltending note, with Francouz potentially being out for a while, what do you guys think we do with that backup goaltending situation? Do we keep Miska in here, or do we bring Warner up?
I'd
What's the
really
deal?
like to see Warner.
I think we make a trade.
I don't know. I think it depends. It's how long is they said we don't expect Francouz back anytime soon. Does that mean a
Right.
couple of months? Because at that point, maybe.
That's what I
But
took
I think
it.
before we
That's
make
how
a
I
trade,
took it.
we gotta get a look at Warner, see what we have there. Because if if he's not capable of playing the backup role right now, then it might even be time to next year. Annanen's going to be here, and you're going to want him starting in the AHL. So you expect Werner to at least be ready for a backup role next year. If he's not ready for the backup role now, that's a little bit scary. So I at least want the Avalanche to see what they have in Werner. I think they need to bring him up and put him in a few games, which I do expect them to do. It's just a question of when. I think he needs to pass Misk on the depth charts for sure.
No, he does. And I think he will, inevitably, because I know we've talked about this in the offseason, but I think that the Avalanche envision their future goaltending situation as being why can I not remember his name?
Eustace Annanen?
Billy. Yes, Annanen as the starter and then Warner as the backup. I think that's kind of how the Avalanche envision their future. And so if we can see Warner, in a few games this season as a backup to Gruby, I think that's the best option that the Avalanche have right now outside of making a trade. I think Miska's fine. He could definitely fill in for a few games, but yeah, you want to see Adam Warner make that next step, especially passing Miska on the depth chart.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm curious, Marshall, if the Avalanche are making a trade, what kind of guy are you looking for? Are you looking for a guy that
Carey Price?
Carey Price? Me too, but I don't think that's happening. Are you more looking for a guy to be in a tandem with Grubauer, or are you more looking for a true backup?
Honestly, at this point, it's like with Grubauer's injury history when he's been with the Avalanche, and Frankie's still a bit of an unknown, piece in the roster. I think if the Avs were to make another move, it would be for a goaltender that can compete with Grubauer. I don't know necessarily who that would be, but I think that would be the case. Not necessarily making a move for just another backup, and that's just
I
me.
think that makes a lot of sense because if you're just looking for a backup, I think you can get a guy like that on waivers, and if not,
Yeah.
you hope that Adam Werner's already that guy. So if the Avs were to make a move, I do think it would have to be for someone you legitimately expect to start 20 games. So that's all I've got on the Avs today. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add before we get out of here.
No,
No.
Billy, you're
I know.
frozen as
That's
hell.
why I was gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been frozen for a couple minutes here. I'm trying to reset my camera; it's not working. So that's where we're at.
Like honestly, like when I was forgetting Anna's name is because I was staring at Billy's soul. Like I
Such a
was like,
flattering screen to freeze on too. At least my
yeah,
mouth's
I
not
was like,
gaping open.
yeah. So that's, I think maybe that's where we should end it. Billy, we got to figure
I
out
know.
your
I don't know what's
frames.
happening here. But thank you to all of our viewers. If you're still in that live chat, like I said, go ahead, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. You guys have really been helping us grow a lot lately, propel some of our videos to a lot of views. So we're doing really well. We're happy with it, and we want to keep producing content for you guys. We talked about my terrible camera the past couple of pods, but YouTube is still the best place to watch us. You at least get to see these two with their cameras working out well. And you get to see us early because it takes quite a while for the VODs to process and for me to get them onto all of our other platforms. So check us out on YouTube, and we will see you guys in our next video.